Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson are without a doubt two of one of the most skilled fighters of this era. Both are champions, both are at the top of the elite level, and if you look at their best nights, both look completely unbeatable. Now, if you keep looking at it from that point of view, it's a trap. You might get things wrong, and a lot of people are getting a lot of things wrong when it comes to comparing these two fighters, but we'll get into that later in the video. We have seen cracks in the armor of both men. We have seen moments where Teofimo looked stalled and where the defensive wizardry of Shakur Stevenson looked more like hesitation. So in this video, we're doing a real deep dive. We're breaking down their fight styles, dissecting their career records beyond just wins and losses, and taking a look at exactly which opponents gave them their easiest wins and their hardest tests. Because when these two meet in the ring, these past struggles are the blueprint for how this fight will be won or lost. I also will be making a final prediction in this video, so make sure you hang on till the end of the video. But before we unpack all that, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and like the video if you end up liking the video. Now, if I had to explain Teofimo Lopez's fight style in a quick sentence or 2 words, it will be explosion versus control. Teofimo Lopez is pretty much an explosive counter puncher built for moments. He isn't a volume puncher who drowns you. He's a sniper. He thrives when opponents step into range. He needs you to make the first move so he can make the last one. His power comes from elite speed and timing, not just brute force. He's confident and flowing. He's one of the fastest fighters in the sport at transitioning from defense to offense. You blink, he's already landed a left hook and pivoted out. But here's the reality check. Teofimo isn't a pure technician, all right? And honestly speaking, I feel like this is one of the defects in his armor. He relies heavily on his defenses and his athleticism to create openings. And that means some styles make him look like a god, while others make him look confused as hell. Teofimo's biggest achievement is becoming the unified lightweight champion by defeating the Matrix himself, Vasil Lomachenko. It really shocked the world at that time. He later won a title at 140 by beating the undisputed champion Josh Taylor, which was also impressive. His record has proven one thing clearly. Teofimo shows up for the bright lights. He has that big fight gene. He thrives when the pressure is on him, when he's the underdog, when people are starting to doubt how consistent he is. He comes in and proves everybody wrong. For some reason, that's when he thrives. When the pressure is the highest, he tends to perform the best. But that record also shows massive inconsistency. Like I said, it reveals a fighter who struggles deeply when he's forced in the ring general. And that's just what happens a lot. I've watched his tape over and over again, and that is the consistent pattern, honestly speaking. When he has to lead the dance rather than to react, that's when we start to see some weaknesses there. And unfortunately, Shakur Stevenson may be able to take advantage of things like that, but we'll get into that later. Teofimo's easiest fights, if you look closely, almost always come against the aggressive or flat-footed opponents who are willing to trade. For example, Richard Comey as the prime example. Comey is a dangerous puncher, but he came forward, he reached, he gave Teofimo one of the things he craves, space to counter. In that second round, Comey threw a right hand, let himself open for a split second, and Teo's counter right hand was there instantly. One big mistake ended the fight. Then fight with Josh Taylor, something similar happened there. Everyone thought Josh Taylor was the bully, all right? He was gonna bully Teo, he was gonna dominate Teo, but Taylor pressured forward without a plan B, and that's what happened. He couldn't control the distance. Teofimo stayed calm, picked his shots, and punished Taylor's entries with sharp uppercuts and check hooks. These fighters gave Teofimo the initiative. They essentially walked into the slaughterhouse, and history was written. Now, when it comes to Teofimo's hardest fights, it's an entirely different story when you flip the switch. Teofimo struggles most against disciplined movers and spoilers. Look at the Sandor Martin fight, which a lot of people did think was a robbery, but you know, it is what it is. That was a nightmare for Teo. Why? Because Martin didn't engage emotionally. He didn't do that at all. He was very technical. He didn't care about the crowd. He stayed defensive. Keyword, defensive. Moved constantly on the back foot and forced Teo to lead. That was the beginning of the end, making Teo lead the dance. Now, the stats tell a different story here. Teo was missing wild shots. If you rewatch that fight, lunging in and getting clipped by Martin's check hook. That fight exposed Teofimo's impatience. And when his impatience, he gets really, really reckless. And against the right fighter, it would absolutely pay a price. When the knockout isn't there, he doesn't always have a plan B to jab his way to the decision. Of course, we got to look at the fight against George Kambosos Jr., which was a very shocking result as well. Because in my opinion, Teofimo Lopez is, in my opinion, an elite fighter. George Kambosos Jr., not really. He's just there. This was the biggest upset of the year at that time for a reason. Kambosos didn't just come to fight, he came to disrupt. He used lateral movement and fast jab to break Teofimo's rhythm. He dropped Teo in the first round with an overhand right because Teo got lazy with the defense, expecting an easy blowout. And honestly, I don't think Teofimo recovered from the shock. Not like he was hurt or anything, but he underestimated George Kambosos Jr. Of course, he was a better fighter, but as a boxer, you shouldn't be going in there underestimating your fighter. You should be confident, but don't underestimate your fighter. And that was the mistake that affected him at the rest of the fight. Now, these fights that I mentioned highlight Teofimo's biggest weakness when he can't land explosively early. He becomes frustrated, and frustrated Teofimo Lopez is a predictable Teofimo Lopez. Now, when we talk about Shakur Stevenson's fight style, I would say it's pretty much control without chaos. Shakur's fight style is stylistic power, opposite of Teofimo. It's just opposite, all right? Even though they are similar in some type of ways, both fighters are similar in a lot of ways, but their fight style couldn't be more farther away from each other. Shakur Stevenson is a distance controller, and I really have to commend him with his ring IQ and his defensive prowess. He's a defensive genius and arguably the smartest boxer in the sport today regarding the pure ring IQ. He doesn't win with devastating one-punch power. He wins with millimeter perfect positioning, timing, and making opponents miss constantly. Shakur doesn't force chaos, he eliminates it. He turns a fist fight into a geometry equation that only him knows how to solve. Now, Shakur's record, when you take a look at it, of course, he's undefeated, multi-division champion, dominating legitimate contenders across 3 weight classes. On paper, it looks flawless, but his resume tells a clear story if you watch the tape. He doesn't struggle to win. He barely loses rounds, but he does struggle to entertain. And while entertainment doesn't win belts, it matters when we talk about difficulty. When a fighter refuses to take risks, it limits their ability to hurt elite opponents who also refuse to take risks. So it's like a standstill. At some point, you got to be willing to be that dog, bring out that dog out of you. Of course, Shakur has nights against aggressive fighters who overextend and try to take the lead off. Look at the fight with Oscar Valdez. Good fight. That was a masterclass from Shakur Stevenson, honestly speaking. Valdez is a great fighter, but he chased throughout the fight. He tried to impose his will. Shakur simply stood his ground, slipped through shots by inches, and let it clean counters all night. He dropped Valdez, he hurt him, and he made a unified champion look like an amateur. Same goes for fights like Yoshino or Jamel Herring. Makes them pay tax on every single entry, and he does it without taking any damage himself. Shakur Stevenson is the closest fighter to Floyd Mayweather in this current era, but that comes with a struggle. Of course, hardest fights comes against elite athletes on high output. Fighters who put on a high volume of output and match his volume. Fighters who refuse to play his game. The Edwin De Los Santos fight is the elephant in the room. We gotta talk about that fight. This was widely criticized as a boring fight, and honestly speaking, it was really goddamn boring. But technically, it was revealing. It showed a lot of struggles and weakness in Shakur Stevenson's game. Shakur became hesitant. Now his defensive prowess now looked like someone who's scared, and he started to build a reputation of being a runner. That's a result of those type of styles clashing. Conceal was another tough one. High output, awkward rhythm, and relentless pressure. He forced Shakur into closer rounds than usual because he simply wouldn't stop throwing. These fights expose Shakur's main issue. If he doesn't fully control the pace, he doesn't have the equalizer power built with him. He can't just knock you out if he's losing on the cards. He has to outbox you for 36 minutes perfectly. So you can see how they're similar, but they're opposite. Teofimo Lopez is more of a counter striker who likes to return the favor. And when he's put in the position to lead that fight, he doesn't do that well. Shakur Stevenson is the opposite. He likes to dominate. He likes to move forward. He likes to dictate the fight. But when you match him with the same energy and you make him a counter striker, he probably has a bigger chance of losing. This is why I say both fighters are kind of a nightmare matchup for each other. The scenarios, if the fight stays technical and controlled, this is Shakur's world. If that happens, he will peck away with the jab, pivot, and frustrate Teo until Teo makes a mistake. If Teo forces exchanges and lands early, that's the danger for Shakur. Shakur has never been hit by someone with Teo's blend of speed and power at 140 at least. This wouldn't be a blowout either way in my opinion. It would be a battle of patience versus pressure. Control versus chaos. Just because I said it's not gonna be a war doesn't mean it's not gonna be an entertaining fight. I do see this as being a technically entertaining fight, but I don't see this dog war happening between both guys, even though that there's a chance of that happening. And I do believe Shakur can also find ways to thrive when he's in a dog fight, but I just don't see that happening. But ultimately, I think I do see this fight going the distance in terms of competitiveness. It will likely go 12 rounds, but I don't see it being close on the cards. It will either be a regular boxing technical fight where one guy neutralizes the other, or will be a one-sided beatdown if Teo catches Shakur. However, at the end of the day, this fight comes down to one thing, and that's discipline, man. Both fighters are technicians, both are elite. But in the late rounds, when you're tired and hurt, discipline is what keeps your hands up. Discipline is what keeps you sticking to the game plan. I believe Shakur is more disciplined. He is more defensively sound. He doesn't get emotional in the ring like Teo does. Therefore, I am picking Shakur Stevenson to win this fight by point. Now, I'm not sleeping on Teofimo Lopez in any way. The man has made a career out of proving people like me wrong. So I'm not counting him out completely, but if I have to put money on it, I'm pretty confident Shakur will edge out a decision here by frustrating Teo, making him miss and winning the battle of the jab. Look, styles make fights, and it's the oldest saying in boxing because it's true. This is one of those fascinating style clashes in boxing today. So let me know in the comments what you think. Who do you think is a better fighter? Who do you think is going to win this fight? And let me know if you disagree with anything that I said. And if I missed any analysis in this, don't forget to like this video if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Peace.